Hi, welcome back. Guys! No, never mind, we're not doing this again. So, I did the 1.2 story quest in Arknights Endfield, and I am no longer worried about patch 1.2 being 49 days long, because I want them to have a lot of cook time to make anything else that is like patch 1.2. This is now my favorite story quest in any gacha game. Before I'd say it was Lavatane's story quest followed by Frolova's, but I can't even put anything else on its level. Even Lavatane's was just okay in comparison. I know I'm already glazing, but bear with me. This story quest is perhaps the most aesthetic, cinematic, audiophilic, and visually impressive story quest in any 3D gacha game, and it's not even close. Although before we get to glazing that part, we have to talk about the story writing first. Obviously, spoilers ahead, so if you haven't done the story quest yet, definitely do that, then come back. So pretty much everybody's going to agree that this story quest isn't exactly on the level Arknights players are used to, story writing wise. There is no Misha, there's no Hierda, which some of you might find a little disappointing. However, I really think the reason we don't have any deeper or more conflicted writing in 1.2 specifically is because of the bad setup that 1.0 had. The writing here isn't bad either, it's just slightly above average, and the pacing was pretty good as well. Neferth's section felt a little rushed, but I don't even think she's dead. I think we're going to get more exposition on her later. I also specifically enjoyed how they let us continue the story without forcing us into a tutorial that shows us how to make heavy Sharonite and just give us the heavy Sharonite pieces we needed to repair their pillars, which was definitely one of the biggest complaints about the 1.0 story. Also, the Enmin had a lot of voice lines throughout the entire thing and definitely felt like their own character. Devs listened. Now, to really begin, I was a little pissed off at first about Li Jian really wanting to play hero and sacrificing herself, but Chen continuously called her out on it, which means the writers knew what they were doing with Li Jian's character, and so it didn't really feel forced. And in the end, she also kinda got what she wanted, where it also didn't feel forced. I'm also sure the reason Li Jian was so obsessed with sacrificing herself was because the writers wanted to use her to prepare the Enmin for when Zhuang Fangyi also started wanting to sacrifice herself. They wanted to give the Enmin a sense of mega urgency, or wanted them to think something like, I don't want to repeat the same mistake again. Except the reason it might not feel that way to some of you is because Arcane is an unreleased character, and there is no way gacha writers would kill off a character before they were even released. If Li Jian had a complete character arc and was already released, I think the writers would have totally allowed her to truly sacrifice herself. But it's also pretty obvious Chen is going to get some more character development with her. And this is the same reason I also think we're going to see more of Neferth later. We still know absolutely nothing about who she is and what she was, and as much as Hypergriff hates NPC money, I think Neferth could totally get more exposition later. I pray she's not another Senora, but that might be cool. Ardashir's part of the story quest was by far the most well-written part, especially because it ties so much to Terra and the Enmin's past. Ardashir revealed that he used to live on the other side of the Cosmic Gate, aka he used to live on Terra, and specifically he used to be a Sargonian Pasha, which, by the way, Sargon mentioned, Pepe and Narutuya reference, reclamation algorithm reference. It also makes you wonder how long he lived on Terra, and whether or not he even interacted with any currently living Arknights character. We get a deeper glimpse into his motivations, the fact that he used to serve the Enmin, and the fact he wants to open the rifts in Wuling up to find a group called the Exiles, who were once the source of the Enmin's despair, as he put it, which might suggest that the Enmin has something to do with the Blight and Ether side, but that's just a baseless theory. Overall, we basically get much less vague posting, and he tones it down from like a 100% vagueness level down to 30%. A character like this who isn't a reconvener, but instead somebody who lived on both Terra and Talos too, but also isn't an Arknights character, could be used to prepare us for the introduction of someone like Warfern as well, who, if you've never played Arknights, is a medical genius vampire who is the current leader of the Rhodes Island Enclave on Talos 2, Rhodes Island being the famous pharmaceutical company that employs mercenaries and tries to stop war crimes and only sometimes fails. I also really love how we got to know a couple more operators, specifically Dapan and Li Feng, and I think Valley 4's story quest could have improved a lot if they included more operators, rather than relegating someone like Aviwena to some barely voiced side quest. Zhuang Fangyi's part of the story afterwards was really emotional, but that's not really because of the writing, because it's kinda basic. It's mostly, again, because of the cinematics and visuals. My favorite part about the writing is all the references we're getting to the 13 Sui proxy, which is super exciting. She's definitely going to be a 1.3 character, as it would be kinda pointless to talk about her coming to Wuling so much without releasing her in the next story quest. Next patch will totally include the Sui proxy, as well as Mifu and more Li Jian lore, but as they didn't tease her yet, Arcane is probably going to be a 1.4 character. Overall, this quest is a good 6 or 7 out of 10 based on the writing alone, but with all of the cinematics, visuals, the audio, the OSTs, the facial animations, I would genuinely give this story quest a good 10 out of 10 experience in total. Especially during Zhuang Fangyi's letter writing scene, I was not only genuinely super emotional, but I also just sat down and listened to the OST because it was so good. Hypergriff proves again to be a music company acting like a game company. My only two complaints throughout the entire thing is that for some reason, the more important Neferith boss fight cutscenes were not only in 720p but also barely 30 FPS, which kinda took me out of it a bit. And also, Zhuang Fangyi could have chilled out on all the blushing she did throughout the entire story quest. Cute, overworked lightning leak lady nevertheless though. I really like her character. I am absolutely obsessed with the letter writing scene, by the way. Not only is it all very pretty, especially her, but the emotions were also very high on this one. I know it's a disappointment to some that the story didn't end up with her actually sacrificing herself, but I don't think that would have been a good path that Endfield should have taken at all right now. I'm a fan of Akame ga Kill, trust me, I like death in stories, but I have zero issues with the way Arcane's and Zhuang Fangyi's martyrdom fantasies were cut short. Now, to start glazing the visuals, the beginning of the story quest wasn't the most visually impressive. The best part about it was probably again just the character animations, facial expressions, and interactions, the usual stuff we already knew Endfield was good at. However, as soon as we entered Ardashir's section, you start noticing how incredible all of this looks. The lighting and shading especially is a work of art. Ardashir's section also contains Evangelion references, by the way, which is a very cool Easter egg. The external environment in this section is very pretty, but I'm not really smart enough to know how much environmental storytelling there really is here. Although, the little garden with the white flowers probably reminds you of the intro of the game. Maybe Ardashir is connected to the girl and Revenant we see in the intro section of the game, especially because he also has a similar color scheme. The part where the visuals really picked up is during Neferith's boss fight and afterwards, which is one of the most epic boss fights I've seen in a gacha game. But even that wasn't my favorite part. Zhuang Fangyi's letter and rift sealing parts were my favorite. The moments where we were traveling with her through the Sway proxy scroll portals were so enhanced by all the animations, and the best part was when we were comforting the crying past Zhuang Fangyi and she had like 30 expressions on her face in a single second. These animations really make Enfield's characters feel so alive. It's not just here but everywhere else too. This little scene where Zhuang Fangyi and Enmin were exchanging ideas, while Mifa was walking around aimlessly waiting for them to finish, she felt like a real character rather than a vessel. Tang Tang's reactions to being thanked by Fangyi was super adorable, again making the character feel so alive. Zhuang Fangyi's letter scene where her face showed hints of exhaustion, realization, acceptance, and determination all at once, reflecting her willingness and sadness to sacrifice herself. As much as that didn't happen, again, the characters felt super alive throughout this entire thing. I could keep going on and on, but I'd be repeating myself at this point. This quest was a masterpiece. Now, I'm sure some players are going to complain about it not being an Arknights story again, but I already gave you my thoughts here. It's definitely 1.0's fault. In the end, as long as the story quests are enjoyable, which this one definitely was, I won't complain too much. I still want the endgame to have the same writing quality as Arknights, and I definitely want more Misha and Hierda-esque plot points in Endfield. I'm just not disappointed that they aren't here yet, because I've said this before. If you refuse to see the improvements the game is making, you're being intentionally blind. The writing is much better than before, the presentation and experience is absolutely immaculate, and again, so much better than before somehow. Hypergriff dealt themselves a terrible hand in 1.0, and this was the best possible way to salvage it. Go all out, and that is exactly what they did. I did mention I'm no longer mad about 1.2, and that's mostly true. I still think the 2-week period is gonna be insanely boring, but I'm also really looking forward to what they can cook up in 1.3. It seems to be a brand new story arc, no longer about Ardashir and Neferith specifically, so I'm looking forward to what they're going to write about. Sway lore is inevitable, and that's incredibly exciting, which means 1.3 might be the Arknights feel the players are missing. So, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this in the future, and join the Express Rain Discord server for a fun and lovely community to hang out with. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.